Hi, my name is Dolf. I'm the publisher from Trust Magazine.
And my name is Claude. I'm writing for the Trust Fanzine. Why did you start the publication in the first place?
The reason why we started the fanzine, or the magazine as it used to be called back then, was that there was no publication dealing with subjects we were interested in or the music we were interested in. There were fanzines in Germany, but none of them were on a regular appearing modus. They all came out like punk fanzines, you know, ever then and now. And that's why we decided we need a publication that comes out on a regular basis.
And how do you organize the fanzine?
The idea was born at a meeting of activists back in 1986, 2 months before the first issue came out. That was in Heidenheim. There was like 50 people from southern Germany, activists, fanzine people, band people, musicians, photographers, any kind of activists. And there was decided to have this fanzine together. That's why it's called, in the beginning, it was called South German Hardcore Magazine, because it was a group of people from all over South Germany. And that's how it started. The first issue came out in June or July 1986.
At the moment, we are in the 38th year of the Trust Fanzine, when I'm right.
This video is recorded in 2024, and right at this point we are in the 38th year of the publication.
Yeah, this is the first issue, and this is, I think, the latest issue. And as we can see, there are many similarities. Graphic design is at the heart of fanzine editing. Who do you work with?
In the beginning there was, since, you know, of course none of us has done any, well, people did fanzines before, but we don't have had any experience in publishing a project like this, because the press run in the beginning was 1,000 copies, which for back then was a lot. So it was everything totally DIY. Everybody had to do everything from the scratch. We had the luck that the person who did the first, I think, like 15, 18 years, the layout, that was Mitch from Augsburg. He was not a professional graphic designer, but he had an apprenticeship in printing. So he had a basic knowledge of how to two-tone photos and, you know, basic stuff. So that was a big help. He mostly did all of the layout, like 80% in the beginning. A lot of people came in and we worked together on the layout, but in the end it was only Mitch. And then after he sort of burned out, and, you know, if you do something for decades, it's you get to a point where you cannot do it anymore. And since then, which is like 15 years ago, André, who is a professional graphic designer, working nowadays out of Berlin, he's doing the layout. And the big difference between Mitch and André, of course, also is that the first, I don't know, 100 issues or so, they were all done analog, they were made with scissors and glue sticks and two-tone photos. And André is working everything digital on the computer.
You already touched the topic. The ways of producing the Trust Fanzine have changed significantly. Nowadays we are using digital tools, but once I think the people sat at a typewriter writing the articles, and then you copied it. How did it work once, and how does it work today?
It worked today, like you say, everything is done on computer and digital nowadays, the typing as well as layout and everything. Back then everything was analog, it was all paper, scissors, glue stick. In the beginning we only just used regular paper to put the photos, the two-tone photos and text on there. We used computers to enlarge and reduce headlines or the text in order to make the graphics work, or to photocopy band logos from the record sleeve. And later on, when we got more professional, we also used mounting sheets in order the printer knows the right order of the pages. But then after a while, even the guy Mitch I mentioned earlier started to work with computers, and we got away from the original paper layout to give the printing shop not a paper layout, but a CD-ROM, so they can work with that. And it just progressed from 1986 to now, the way everybody was progressing. Maybe we've been a little bit slower than what would have been possible.
Yeah. And the modes of distribution may have changed significantly also.
They also changed. In the beginning, it was a purely distributed through scene channels. That means record stores, punk mail orders, people selling it as shows, just by presenting it to all the visitors. That was the first channels. And then a couple of years later, we of course expanded all these channels as much as possible. But we got to a point where we decided we need newsstands that are located in train stations. And we had to involve, of course, a proper distribution service to make that. And we are now, since over 20 years, distributed through newsstands on all of the big train stations in Europe, in Germany, of course.
Yeah, it's printed in German. So, do you have loyal readers? Do we have loyal readers?
Well, since we don't have a section where that has the headline, "I'm reading Trust since number one," I don't know that.
You don't know it?
No, I don't know it. I'm sure there's subscribers that have their subscription since decades, and they just keep going. But we don't have any track of if there is a subscriber or a reader since issue number one from 1986. I'm sure there is a lot that read Trust since many years, but I think the typical Trust reader nowadays, I don't know, because we never made any questionnaires about that.
Yeah. Did you become friends with one of the readers? Or enemies?
Friends or enemies with one of the readers? Not that I can remember. I'm sure we met plenty of readers, and I'm sure there was plenty of disagreement with what we did, especially in the beginning. But I can't recall having like a special friend or a special enemy because of Trust.
Yeah, did you receive letters?
In the beginning, we received a lot of letters. That was partly, of course, because it was the only communication channel. So for the first years, there was tons of letters, and we also printed some of them. And with the years, people seemed to, I don't know, fade away or lose interest in expressing their opinion in letters. And so we got to a point where we have received like no letters for years, and we thought, like, is that a problem? And we agreed to decide that it's not our problem if the readers don't send letters.
But I can add that I think it shifted maybe to social media, because we receive a lot of comments and mails on social media. So I think maybe this is the way the people express, because it's way faster and anonymous.
I'm sure you're totally right, but I think the time gap between when we stopped receiving letters and the start of social media, the popular use of social media, what you just explains the popular use until today, but the gap in between, I don't know, people, maybe generation shift or something like that.
What was the issue you enjoyed the most?
Well, since we did 224 issues in the last 38 years, I cannot really tell, but I think that the drug issue back then was pretty good, great, because we had a ton of great writers that shared experiences about their drug experiences. So that stuck in mind. And there was, of course, a few other special issues, but there have also, even if the special issues have been too many, that I can. It's just I'm old.
For me, it's also the special issues, like the Bremen Core special, where I could interview members of the once very popular band Acme. That was very special for me, and a lot of other people that were taking part in the scene at that time. That was very interesting, and I also enjoyed the actual one with an article about internalized misogyny, because I think mostly it's all about music, but when there are articles that are political, I enjoy it also a lot, because it's all political, but this is very special for me. So
yeah, we that was our aim in the beginning, to like sort of focus 70% on music and 30% on social on social political topics. And sometimes that worked out, sometimes it did not work out. It was way more music than social social political topics, but we still try to have always social political topics in the magazine, because we don't want to be just a plain music magazine.
What were the highs running your publication?
My personal highs?
Yeah. Having free entrance on shows, maybe?
Well, that was helpful, and that was very helpful all over the years. That's true, but it was not a high. It was probably meeting all these people.
Yeah.
Meeting very many people and experiencing tasks and learning things that I would never have learned without running the magazine.
I can totally agree. Meeting people through the fanzine, interviewing them, getting to know them better, and becoming friends. And what were the lows running your publication?
The lows were because in the beginning there was no need to reach out for advertisements, because we were, we had a
DIY,
a unique position, and there was a point where people stopped running advertisements, and I said, I'm not gonna ask people to run advertisements. They need to come to us. And I thought that's gonna work forever, but I was wrong. It did not work forever. And since I did not try to get advertisements, there was fewer and fewer advertisements. We ran short of money, and I almost crashed the magazine, because I had to actively go out and ask people, hey, are you interested in doing an advertisement? And that was a shift that in my head, I was just used to get the advertisements. So that was a low point, because I nearly crashed the magazine.
And how did you overcome the challenge? Did it work, or do you still struggle?
It worked much better when I started doing that. It's a total drag. But I'm now so used to it that I just do it, because I'm used to it. But now the last two issues since the pandemic, and the last two issues, there was a super low income for advertisements, and if it goes on like this, then we might have a big problem. But who knows? Maybe the next issue, it will be all good. This had been ups and downs over the last almost 4 decades, all the time, but at this point we are at a low point.
Do you see further challenges in the future?
Yes, for the magazine, it seems that new generations of kids, which might also change, you never know that, but that people are not able to read longer texts anymore. They are just used to very short 2-sentence headlines. And of course, if they get an article that is 6 pages long, it's too much for them. So that might be a problem, but youth and new generations might overcome that problem and go like, we are not interested in this super short internet teasing. We want deeper articles, and we don't want to read them on a screen. We want to have a magazine in our hands and read and start with it and finish it and then put it away. Because with the internet, you are never finished with the internet.
I think that content has to work visually with headlines and pictures, and yeah, that's a challenge
Yeah,
for the future.
that is a challenge. That's true.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening and watching, and enjoy the content.